Hi, I'm Glenn Hughes.
And I'm Ed Buzio.
For 3 decades, I've been working inside a publicly traded company.
And for over a decade, I've been an entrepreneur supporting companies like Glenn's from the outside.
In this series, we look at the problems and challenges of the modern workplace
and provide our ideas and advice
from the inside
and out. Innovation is a popular buzzword, and everyone knows they're supposed to be innovative. But oftentimes people say to me, Ed, I want to be innovative, but my company just won't let me. The culture won't. Glenn, what do I do if I want to be innovative, but my company won't let me?
Well, first off, to me, one of the definitions of innovation is to accomplish something that others can't or won't get done, right? So the fact that people look at me when I come up with an idea and say, no, Glenn, sorry, you can't do that, that's like a very clear, blinding signal that I'm about to do something innovative. And I expect, if it's really innovative, I'm going to get resistance from everywhere. So the first thing I think is when the culture says no, I'd do my little happy dance inside and say, I'm on something, I'm onto something. Because if they said yes, it's not innovative at all.
Now let's go sideways for a minute here. How do you know you're not onto something crazy, something really bad? How do you differentiate?
The crazy and bad is on the far end of a circle that goes to productive and innovative. They're not on a continuum of a line. I mean, crazy is one step away from brilliant. That's my outlook, and so I will get something useful out of that. A learning of, hey, this really actually can't be done, but at least we've tried.
So your answer is find a way to innovate within whatever boundaries there are, and or push the boundaries a little bit to see what else you can get away with, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges with any culture or organization is organizations are set up to maximize ROI. And, you know, unfortunately, what people focus too much on is if I cut all the risk, you know, then that half of the equation is good, but then you also get no output, right? But that's the way they're designed. It takes 1,000 yeses to get your project approved, but it only takes 1 no to stop it. And that's sad, but it's real. So you just don't give anyone an opportunity to say no.
Well, and by the way, that's not wrong. You work in a place, you have a salary, you have stability in your job, and that's because that place produces output to the market in a predictable way, in a useful way. And if everyone could just do whatever they wanted with no controls, that wouldn't happen and you'd have no job. So you are actually balancing something here, and while I appreciate the sentiment that we need to let ourselves and each other be more innovative, there is some reason to have some control on it too, and that's not wrong. Having said that, your point is push the limits.
Well, and this is what it really comes down to. So, you know, I reflected a couple of years ago on my most successful projects in my 30-year span in this company, and took the top 10. Every one of those top 10, I was told no to. Don't do that project, it's stupid, it's been tried before, whatever. It's not a high priority here. And by the way, my best friend was my manager, and he was the one who said no to most of those. What those actually did, and you talk about crazy ideas, those were 10. I have hundreds of ideas every year that I bring up and people say no to. When they tell me that they won't give me time, money, resources, that actually forces me to think about how bad do I want to do this. I have a day job, and I execute my day job, and I do what they ask me to do. I do what's important to my clients. What I find is the innovations I wanted to work on, I worked on my own time with my own money. And that becomes an acid test, is are you sneaking into the lab late at night to work on things after your day job is done?
Well, and you're sneaking in a really important point here, which is if someone is saying I'm not allowed to be innovative, is that because they're getting their job done and meeting all expectations very well and they're trying to improve? Or is it because they're trying to sort of avoid some of the work they don't like, or maybe they're not doing too well at it and they're trying to work their way around it? And the rule number 1, I think, in everything is build your reputation first, which is demonstrate yourself as a positive, useful, functional employee that does what's needed and is trustworthy, then go to the well and say, now I've got this crazy idea. You had some latitude from your boss/best friend because you were performing well to say, all right, well, explore it on your own time and I'll look at it again, or we'll reconsider it or something, as opposed to saying you need to focus yourself, which would be the answer if you weren't performing well.
Yep, and the other advice I give and that I model, I think, is I don't ask permission anymore, I build a prototype, right? You reduce the risk, you reduce the time cycle. I was designing a workbook for one of my workshops, and it wasn't working. It was a text case study, and I had this idea to make it into a comic book, a manga. And I asked 20 people, should I do this? And every single one said, no, you're crazy. We're an engineering culture. Nobody's going to read a comic book. And I finally realized I was stupid, but not for having the idea. I was stupid for asking people. So instead, I built the comic book in a one-page version, went around and showed it to the 20 people, and every single one, when they took it in their hand, says, hey, this is great. It's a lot easier to read, right? People don't know how to address a concept, but if you put something real in their hands, you actually get useful feedback.
I do some design work too, and oftentimes the instructional designs I'm doing are very different than what the clients expect, because they expect slide, 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 talk to each other at your table, slide, 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 slide. And what I do is you walk in the door, okay, now you're in the experience. And I think the clients sometimes have a hard time not wanting to put 42 slides in front of that to set it up. And I use the same approach, which is let me alpha it for you and your group and go through it. And then at the other end of it, decide whether there should have been more talking.
Yep.
Nobody ever decides there should have been more talking if I can get them through it. But if you sit around in an approval meeting, you're right, you get the same thing.
So if I was going to summarize, we've basically said, if they say no, it may be innovative, so that's a good thing. We've said you need to get your day job done and deliver on that before you ask permission to paint outside the lines. And we've also talked about prototype these things, reduce the risk and give them something real in their hands that they can assess.
And one more thing I'd add to that is let's make sure the thing you're innovating has use to the business. Does innovative mean you think it's a cool idea, or does innovative mean you have a new interesting way to solve an existing real business challenge? So more, maybe you'd call it business acumen, helps too, which is to say you can frame your prototype as a real solution to a real problem.
Yep. How about you? How do you guys innovate?